The crystal chandelier looked like a frozen waterfall over the ballroom, throwing golden light over silk dresses and tailored suits. Laughter, music, and the clinking of crystal filled the air, until Vittoria's voice rasgou au salon. "That girl stole my diamond necklace!" Marina barely had time to understand. 1 second, she was carrying a silver tray of champagne flutes. The next, her arm was yanked so hard the glasses rattled. Vittoria's nails dug into her skin as she dragged Marina across the polished marble, heels echoing like gunshots. The quartet stopped playing mid-note. 50 heads turned at once. Dresses worth more than Marina saw in a year swished as the women turned. Men in tuxedos froze, glasses halfway to their lips. The silence was so completo que dava para ouvir o próprio coração batendo. Vitória empurrou Marina para o centro do salão como se estivesse jogando lixo fora. "I trusted this little tramp!" she shouted, finger stabbing the air inches from Marina's face. "I gave her a job, an opportunity, and look what she did. She stole the necklace my husband gave me before he died." Heat burned Marina's cheeks. Her hands shook around the tray. "I didn't steal anything, Senora," she managed, her voice breaking. "I swear, I never touched your necklace. Don't pretend to be innocent with me." Vittoria turned, making sure every guest heard every word. "Poor people are all the same. We open the doors of our house and you can't resist. Something shines and you have to grab it." The words hit harder than any slap. Marina felt dozens of eyes slice through her, judging, condemning. In their gaze, she was no longer Marina, 25, cleaner, daughter of a sick mother, woman who woke up at 5 every morning and took 2 buses just to scrub their marble floors. She was just the maid, and the maid to them was obviously guilty. Her throat tightened, but beneath the terror something else woke up, hot, sharp, unfamiliar. Anger. "You can't accuse me without proof," she said, forcing herself to stand a little straighter. "I have never stolen anything in my life. No one moved, no one stepped in, no one said, 'Maybe she's telling the truth.' All Marina saw were perfectly made-up faces already convinced she was a thief. Before we dive deeper into this story that's almost too real to sound like fiction, let me ask you something from the heart. If you love emotional stories that squeeze your chest and make you think about justice, please subscribe to the channel and leave your like right now. That simple gesture keeps this work alive, helps these stories reach more people, and gives me strength to keep bringing you cases that feel more real than movie scripts. Thank you for supporting with kindness and presence. Now, take a deep breath and come with me. Vittoria snapped her fingers at the 2 private security guards near the door. "Search her, right now, in front of everyone." "This is humiliation!" Marina cried, trying to pull away, but the guards were already on her. In the middle of São Paulo's high society, under chandeliers worth more than her entire house, Marina had to empty the pockets of her navy blue uniform. She laid everything on a nearby table, 1 pen, 2 crumpled coins, a hair tie. "Open your bag," Vittoria ordered. Marina's fingers trembled while she unzipped the cheap black purse. Inside, an old phone with a cracked screen, a worn wallet with a few folded notes, a photo of her mother smiling despite the sickness, and a small pack of candy. She always carried for Miguel, nothing else. The silence ficou ainda mais pesado. "She hid it somewhere," Vittoria hissed, refusing to back down. Patricia, her daughter, stepped forward from the crowd like a villain finally entering the scene. 28, tall, perfect blonde hair, wrapped in a red dress that probably cost as much as Marina's yearly salary. The same pearl earrings Marina had seen earlier still shone beside her neck. "Search her room," Patricia said, voice cold. "She must have hidden it there." Marina felt her voice crack. "I didn't hide anything. Please, I'm innocent, for God's sake." That was when Raphael appeared at the top of the staircase, breathing fast as if he had run. 35, suit slightly wrinkled, dark hair messed from a long day. Widower, businessman, father of Miguel, and, like it or not, Vittoria's son-in-law. "What's going on here?" he demanded, eyes scanning the frozen crowd until they landed on Marina, held by two guards like a criminal. "What's going on?" Vittoria said, turning toward him with eyes shining not just with anger, but with something like triumph. "Is that the maid you defend so much is a thief. My necklace, worth 200,000 reais, disappeared. She's the only one who touches my things." Raphael looked at Marina. In his gaze she read doubt, fear, and something that hurt mais do que qualquer coisa. Hesitation. Her heart cracked. Just a few hours earlier, everything had been different. Miguel, Raphael's 6-year-old son, had gone into a terrifying meltdown during dinner, hands over his ears, screaming, banging his head, drowning in the noise and the people and the change in routine. Autistic, sensitive, fragile. Raphael had tried to hold him, calm him, whisper something soothing. Nothing worked. Then Marina had run up from the first floor, dropping her cleaning cloth on the way. She knelt in front of the boy, ignoring the shocked faces around the table, and began to hum that strange melody without words, the one only she and Miguel knew. Little by little, the screaming faded. Miguel's breathing slowed. He lifted his tear-wet face and threw himself into her arms, clinging to her like a life raft. Raphael had just stood there, watching, stunned. When Marina raised her eyes to thank him for letting her help, their gazes met. For a second, something passed between them. Quiet, electric, dangerous. Something both of them felt and neither dared to name, and Vittoria had seen everything. "Call the police," Vittoria snapped now, dragging Marina back to the present. "Right now." "Vittoria, wait." Raphael came down the stairs 2 at a time. "You can't call the police without being sure. This is serious." "I am sure." She stared him down like she had stared at every boardroom she'd ever conquered. "And if you don't agree, Raphael, that's your problem. This is my house. The money that pays for your son's treatment is my money. So keep quiet." The color drained from Raphael's face. His mouth opened, then closed. He looked like a man in a cage whose que alguém jogou fora há muito tempo, and Marina understood everything. "You're doing this because you're jealous," she said, voice low but clear. "Because Miguel likes me. Because Raphael—" "Shut up!" Vittoria took a step forward, towering over her in glittering gold. "You're just a maid. Do you really think you can walk in here and destroy my family?" "I didn't do anything." But Vittoria was already dialing. "Hello, officer. I'd like to report a robbery." 20. Minutes crawled by like hours. Guests kept watching, whispering behind manicured hands, pretending they weren't enjoying the spectacle. Marina sat on a chair in the middle of the room, guards on either side. Her eyes burned, but she refused to let a single tear fall in front of them. "I didn't steal. I didn't steal." She repeated the words in her head, like a prayer, like a promise, like a vow. Then she saw something shine near her foot on the marble floor, a small object, almost hidden by the leg. Of the chair, a pearl earring with a golden detail. She recognized it immediately. Patricia's earring. Marina leaned forward to pick it up, but the guard jerked her back. "Sit still," he muttered. The police finally arrived, one older, tired-looking officer and a younger one whose eyes were still wide at the luxury around him. "Good evening. Who reported the theft?" "I did, officer," Vittoria said, instantly adopting a trembling, victimized tone. "This girl works here as a cleaner, and today she stole a necklace that has been in my family for generations." The older officer turned to Marina. "Do you have anything to declare?" "I didn't steal anything," she said, forcing the words through the knot in her throat. "She's accusing me without any proof." "We already searched her," one of the guards added. "Found nothing." "Because she hid it," Vittoria snapped. "Search her room. She lives here in the house. There's a little maid's room in the back." Marina's stomach twisted. Her room. The only corner of that mansion that was truly hers. Her clothes, her photos, Miguel's little drawing on the wall. They would turn it all upside down like she was garbage. "Let's go," the officer said. Everyone went along. The policeman, Vittoria, Patricia, some curious guests, Raphael walking behind them in silence, jaw tight. Marina's bedroom looked even smaller with so many people inside. A narrow single bed, a tiny wardrobe, a small table. On the wall, photos of her mother, a saint's image, Miguel's crooked drawing of the three of them holding hands. The officers searched everything: drawers, shoes, under the mattress, inside the pillowcase, even in her worn-out sneakers. 15 minutes that felt like a lifetime. "Nothing here, Mom," the older cop finally said. "Then she hid it somewhere else," Vittoria insisted, voice climbing. "She had the whole day to do it." He sighed. He had seen this scene before. Rich employer, poor employee, an accusation that almost never led anywhere. "Mrs. Albuquerque, we can file a report, but without proof or witnesses, there's not much we can do right now." "Then I want her out of my house. Now." Vittoria pointed at Marina like she was pointing at a bug. The officer turned to Marina. "Do you live here?" "No, I just keep some things. I live with my mother." "Then pack your things and leave." The words hit harder than any sentence a judge could give. Marina felt the tears finally rise, but she swallowed them. She wouldn't give Vittoria that. Satisfaction. She calmly folded her clothes into a plastic bag, put her photos, Miguel's drawing, and her 3 sets of uniforms inside. When she finished, she lifted her head and looked straight into Vittoria's eyes. "I didn't steal anything," she said quietly, "but one day the truth will come out." "Get out of my house," Vittoria spat, "before I sue you for defamation too." Marina walked through the hallway of the mansion one last time, plastic bag in hand, back straight. Guests pulled away from her as if she were contagious. When she passed Raphael, he opened his mouth, eyes full of something like regret, but she shook her head. There was nothing left to say. She was almost at the front door when a scream split the air, a high, desperate sound that froze the blood in her veins. Miguel. The sound of the police radios buzzed faintly as they walked down the long corridor toward the service area. The marble tiles reflected the harsh fluorescent light, and Marina followed behind them, her hands trembling, her heart thudding like thunder inside her chest. Each step she took echoed with the weight of humiliation. She could feel every pair of eyes burning on her back. The housekeepers, the chef, the chauffeur. Everyone who had once smiled at her now looked away. When they reached her little room, one of the officers gestured politely. "Miss, please open it." Her hands fumbled with the key. She pushed the door open. The small space looked even smaller with the policeman inside. Just a bed, a small table, a wardrobe, and the drawings Miguel had given her taped to the wall. "Look anywhere you want," she said quietly. The older policeman searched gently, opening drawers, shaking clothes, even checking under the mattress. The younger one glanced around, uncomfortable. It didn't take long. "There's nothing here," the older officer said finally. Vittoria's face tightened. "Then she hid it somewhere else." "Ma'am," the officer sighed, "without evidence, there's nothing we can do tonight." Vittoria crossed her arms, furious. "Then get her out of my house, right now." Marina swallowed hard. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I'll go." She picked up her bag, folded her uniforms, and grabbed the little photo of her mother from the wall. Before she could leave, she paused at Miguel's drawing, a childish scribble of 3 stick figures holding hands, one of them clearly her. Tears stung her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She folded the paper carefully and slipped it into her bag. As she stepped out into the night, the mansion behind her glowed like a golden cage. The heavy gate closed with a metallic clang, a sound that echoed in her bones. She stood by the sidewalk for a moment, breathing in the cold air, realizing she had nowhere to go at that hour. The bus stop was empty, the street silent except for the faint hum of distant traffic. Then, "Marina!" She turned. Raphael was running down the driveway, his tie undone, his eyes full of something between guilt and desperation. "Please wait," he said, breathless. I didn't want it to happen this way." She stared at him, her voice shaking. "You could have stopped her." "I tried." His tone cracked. "You saw what she's like. She controls everything, even my son's treatment." Marina shook her head. "You let her destroy me." He took a step closer, lowering his voice. "I'll fix this. I swear to you. I'll find the necklace. I'll clear your name." She looked up at him, searching for sincerity, for courage. "Do you even believe I'm innocent, Raphael?" Silence. The night air grew colder between them. "I don't know what to believe," he admitted. That was worse than any insult. Marina's breath hitched and she turned away, the pain twisting in her chest. "Then don't bother, because I know who I am, and one day you will too." She walked away, her shadow stretching under the streetlights. Raphael stood frozen, watching her disappear into the dark. Inside the mansion, Vittoria watched from the balcony window, a glass of champagne in her hand, her reflection smirking back at her. "Problem solved," she whispered to herself. But it wasn't. Because as Marina's bus rolled through the sleeping city, she wasn't crying anymore. She was thinking, every insult, every sneer replayed in her mind like fire feeding itself. And by the time the bus reached her neighborhood, that fire had turned into something else. A vow. She wouldn't stay silent. She wouldn't let them destroy her. When she opened the door to the small apartment she shared with her mother, the smell of eucalyptus and old medicine filled the air. Her mother was asleep on the couch, the TV still on low volume. Marina covered her with a blanket and sat beside her, staring at the screen without really seeing it. A commercial about jewelry came on, a necklace shining under bright lights, the kind of necklace Vittoria would wear. Marina clenched her fists until her nails cut her palms. She took the photo of Miguel from her bag and placed it on the table. His innocent smile seemed to look straight at her, reminding her of the one person who had seen her kindness. "I'll come back for you, meu anjo," she whispered, "and I'll make them regret every single tear they made me cry." Outside, the first drops of rain began to fall, soft at first, then heavier, washing over the empty streets like a promise. Thunder rolled over the city hours later, rattling the mansion's windows. Vittoria was still in the living room, enjoying the last champagne in her glass when she heard the scream. It wasn't the kind of scream that could be ignored. It was sharp, terrified, coming from upstairs, from Miguel's room. "Raphael!" she shouted, but he was already running. He threw open the door to find his son on the floor, rocking back and forth, hands pressed hard against his ears, tears streaming down his little face. His pajamas were twisted, his small body trembling. "Miguel, filho, calma. Calma. Papai tá aqui." The boy didn't hear him. He screamed louder, hitting his forehead against the side of the bed, again and again. "Meu Deus," Raphael whispered, rushing forward, trying to hold him. "Miguel, para! Por favor, filho!" But the boy fought with a strength that didn't seem possible for a 6-year-old. Vittoria appeared at the door, pale. "What's happening?" "You know exactly what's happening," Raphael shouted, his voice breaking as he tried to restrain the boy. "You sent away the only person who could calm him." "Don't be." "Ridiculous." She was the only one he trusted. Miguel's screams turned into wordless sobs, his tiny fists striking the air. Blood appeared where he'd scratched his face. "Call the doctor," Vittoria cried. "Now!" The guards rushed for the phone. Raphael rocked the boy in his arms, desperate. "It's okay, filho, it's okay. You're safe. Papa's here." But nothing worked. Miguel's cries turned into a choking sound, his eyes rolling back. His body began to convulse. "No, no, no, no!" Raphael laid him on the carpet, his own hands trembling. "He's having a seizure! Call the doctor now!" The room exploded into panic. Vittoria screamed orders. Guests crowded the hallway, whispering in shock. And amid the chaos, Raphael looked down at his son, unconscious now, breathing shallowly, and whispered through tears, "What did we do to you?" The doctor arrived 10 minutes later, still in his nightclothes. He worked quickly, injecting medication, checking the boy's pulse. When it was over, he looked at Raphael with a frown that spoke louder than words. "This was stress-induced," the doctor said quietly, "emotional overload. Whatever happened tonight, You can't let it happen again." Raphael nodded, unable to speak. From the doorway, Vittoria stood like a statue, her face pale but her jaw still clenched in denial. "This is her fault," she muttered. "That girl bewitched him somehow. That's why he's like this." Raphael turned, eyes blazing. "Enough! You did this. You humiliated a woman in front of 50 people, and now my son's paying for it." Vittoria's voice cracked. "You will not speak to me like— Get out!" he shouted, startling even himself. "Out of this room now!" For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Vittoria lifted her chin, icy again, and left. When the door closed, Raphael sat by the bed, head in his hands. Miguel's tiny fingers twitched in sleep. His chest rose and fell, fragile but steady. Raphael whispered, "I'll fix this, meu amor, I swear." But even as he said it, he didn't know how. Across the city, Marina couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Miguel crying. She saw his little hands, his smile, his trust. She sat at the table, staring at the candle she'd lit beside her mother's picture. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "You deserved what happened. That's what you get for forgetting your place." Vittoria's number had been blocked, but Marina didn't need confirmation. She knew exactly who sent it. Her hands trembled, but then she smiled. Not a soft, kind smile, a small, fierce one. "Let's see how you handle losing everything you think you own," she whispered. By morning, the story had already spread among the upper-class circles. The maid who stole the necklace. Gossip traveled faster than truth. At a bakery near her house, Marina heard 2 women whispering about it. "They say she hid the necklace inside her mop bucket," one said. "Typical," the other replied. "They all steal when you trust them too much." Marina's grip tightened around the coffee cup until it cracked, but when she stepped outside, the rain had stopped, and sunlight was breaking through the clouds. For a moment, she closed her eyes, letting the warmth touch her face. "I'll clear my name," she murmured, "even if it takes everything I have." She didn't know yet how, but she would. That evening in the mansion, Raphael sat at his desk, surrounded by silence. He stared at the photo of Miguel smiling beside Marina. His phone vibrated. A message from the doctor. Miguel's condition could worsen without emotional stability. He needs familiar faces. The maid seemed to calm him. "Think carefully." Raphael leaned back, rubbing his eyes. He wanted to call her. God, he wanted to. But he didn't even know what he'd say. "Sorry I didn't defend you while my mother ruined your life." He turned off the phone, ashamed. Downstairs, Vittoria watched from the hallway, her reflection cold in the mirror. "If he calls her," she whispered, "I'll make sure she never steps near this house again." But for the first time in her life, Vittoria had underestimated the kind of love that doesn't break under money or pride, the kind Marina and Miguel shared, and love like that always finds a way back. Morning arrived, painted in grey. The city still carried the scent of last night's rain, and Marina woke to the faint buzz of traffic outside her small window. Her mother was still asleep, the sound of her breathing soft and fragile. Marina dressed, quietly. No uniform this time, just a plain shirt and old jeans. She stood in front of the cracked mirror above the sink and stared at her reflection. Her eyes looked older, tired, but behind them there was something unbreakable. She tied her hair back, picked up her bag, and left the apartment. The bus jolted through the crowded streets. Marina watched the skyline of São Paulo slide past the window, towers of glass and steel she used to clean every morning, now distant, unreachable. But deep down, she didn't want to just return to them. She wanted to rise above them. At the corner, she got off near a small employment agency. A handwritten sign on the glass said, "Domestic workers, cooks, nannies. Inquire inside." The woman at the desk didn't even look up when Marina entered. Name, Marina Oliveira. Experience, 8 years as a cleaner, 3 as a nanny. References. Marina froze. Her heart sank. Vittoria had destroyed every reference she'd ever had. The agency woman looked up. impatient. Next, Marina stepped back, humiliated again. But she didn't cry, not anymore. On the street outside, she stopped near a small stand selling coffee and cheese bread. The owner, an older man with kind eyes, poured her a cup without asking. "You look like someone who's had a hard week." "You have no idea," she murmured. He smiled softly. "You know, my daughter used to say, 'Life only beats you down to show you what you're made of.'" Maybe she was right. Marina smiled faintly, took the cup and looked at the people hurrying to work, all so sure of where they were going. She whispered to herself, "I'll find a way." That same morning, Raphael sat at the kitchen table, untouched coffee growing cold beside him. Miguel sat quietly at the other end, drawing on a piece of paper, but it wasn't the bright, messy energy he once had. His lines were shaky, his colors muted. Raphael's chest ached. He hadn't seen his son smile once since Marina left. "Popeye," Miguel whispered suddenly. "Can she come back?" Raphael froze. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "She made the monsters go away," the boy added softly. Raphael swallowed hard. "I know, Filio. I know." Before he could say more, Vittoria entered, wearing a beige suit and perfume that filled the room like a storm cloud. "You're taking him to the clinic today," she announced. "I already called the therapist." Raphael looked up sharply. "He doesn't need another stranger. He needs discipline," she snapped. "Not that. Girls' pity." Raphael's jaw tightened. "You keep saying that, but maybe pity is what this house needs most." Vittoria's eyes went cold. "Careful, Raphael. You forget who saved this company after your wife died." He stood up slowly, his hands flat on the table. "You didn't save me. You bought control." For a moment they stared at each other, mother-in-law and son-in-law, two worlds colliding. "Don't you dare defy me over a maid," she hissed. Raphael's voice dropped, calm but dangerous. "Then stop acting like one." Vittoria's face turned red. She raised her hand as if to slap him, then froze, realizing what she was about to do. She turned sharply and left. Miguel's small voice broke the silence. "Papai!" Raphael knelt beside him. "It's okay, Philo. I promise. One day things will be right again." He didn't know how, but the fire in his chest told him he would try. Meanwhile, Marina wandered through the city center, looking for work anywhere that would take her. She cleaned a bakery for 2 days, washed dishes at a diner for another 3. Every night she came home exhausted, her hands raw, her wallet still empty. One evening, while wiping the counter of the small cafe, she overheard 2 women at a nearby table. "Did you hear about that charity gala? They're looking for temporary staff. It's at the Blake Tower, the same place that company runs those fancy events." Marina's heart skipped a beat. Blake Tower, Vittoria's world. She asked carefully, "Do you know where I can apply?" The woman smiled. "They're desperate for staff. Go tomorrow morning, level 5, HR office." That night, Marina lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The idea was dangerous, insane even. Going back into that world could ruin her, but maybe it was exactly what she needed. Because if fate was giving her a door back into the place that destroyed her, she would walk through it. Not as a maid this time, but as something much more powerful. The next morning, she arrived at the Blake Tower dressed neatly, her hair tied, a quiet fire in her eyes. She handed her ID to the receptionist, who barely looked at her. "You're here for the gala team?" "Yes." "Wait there." As she sat on the bench, a voice behind her made her freeze. "Marina?" She turned. It was Lucas, the mansion's former driver, the only one who had tried to defend her the night she was accused. "Meu Deus," he whispered. "I thought you disappeared." She smiled sadly. "Maybe I did." He looked around, then leaned closer. "You need to be careful. Vittoria's telling everyone you're dangerous. She said you threatened her." Marina's jaw clenched. "Let her talk. Words don't scare me anymore." Lucas nodded slowly. "If you're going to fight her, you'll need proof." Marina's eyes darkened, but there was a glint of purpose. "Then that's exactly what I'll find." That night, The city lights shimmered on the wet asphalt. Marina walked home with her new staff badge in her hand, event assistant, Blake Tower Gala, and a storm gathering. Quietly inside her heart, because destiny had just handed her a key to the place where it all began, and she was going to use it. Rain had started again by the time Marina left the bus. She tightened her coat and hurried through the puddles, the neon lights of the city reflecting in the water like broken stars. In her hand, she still clutched her new badge from the Blake Tower. That single piece of plastic meant a second chance. Or maybe revenge. She spent the next days working silently behind the scenes of the grand gala preparations. She cleaned tables, checked decorations, and helped with logistics, invisible among the hundreds of workers moving through the luxurious chaos. No one noticed her, except one person. On the third day, while unpacking boxes near the main hall, Marina heard a small, familiar voice. "Marina!" Her heart stopped. She turned, and there he was. Miguel, tiny, fragile, holding a stuffed elephant, eyes wide with shock and hope. "Miguel!" she breathed. The boy dropped the toy and ran to her. She caught him instinctively, kneeling to hold him tight as tears flooded her eyes. "I missed you," he whispered against her shoulder. Marina couldn't speak. She just nodded, afraid that if she said anything she would start sobbing. Raphael appeared seconds later, stopping dead when he saw them together. His heart slammed in his chest. "Marina," he said softly. She stood, still holding Miguel's hand. "I'm just working, sir. Don't worry, I'm not trespassing." Raphael shook his head. "I know, they told me you were hired for the event. I didn't believe it until now." He knelt beside his son. "Miguel, buddy, we have to let Marina work, okay?" But the boy clung to her tighter, refusing to let go. "She stays," he whispered stubbornly. Raphael's throat tightened. He looked up at Marina, guilt and longing written all over his face. "He hasn't spoken that clearly in weeks," he said. Marina blinked fast, hiding her emotion. "Then maybe you should ask yourself, why?" Their eyes locked. 1,000 words hung unspoken between them. From the balcony above, Vittoria's voice sliced through the air like a blade. "What is going on here?" The three of them froze. Vittoria descended the staircase like a queen ready for execution. Her golden heels clicked sharply against the marble floor. "What is she doing here?" "She works here," Raphael said firmly before Marina could answer. Vittoria's face twisted. "Not anymore." "Enough," Raphael said, his voice stronger this time. "This is a public event. You don't own the building, Vittoria." She turned red. "I can have her banned." "Do it," he snapped. "But understand this. If you humiliate her again, I'll take Miguel and leave. For good." Silence. Vittoria's expression faltered for the first time. "You wouldn't dare." Raphael straightened. "Try me." The silence stretched until even the staff around them stopped moving. Finally, Vittoria turned and stormed away, her heels echoing like thunder. When she disappeared, Raphael looked back at Marina. "I'm sorry for everything." Marina exhaled slowly. "Sorry won't erase what happened." "I know," he said, "but maybe it's a start." Miguel tugged her sleeve, smiling weakly. "You'll come tomorrow?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, sweetheart, I'll be here." The boy's smile returned for the first time in weeks. It was small but real. Raphael watched them, torn between gratitude and something deeper he didn't dare name. That night, as Marina walked home through the rain, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Strength. Not because things were fixed, but because she had faced them. And somewhere inside her, a new plan began to form. She took out her old phone, scrolling through photos she had once taken at the mansion, Miguel's drawings, Raphael's charity documents, and something else. A memory flashed in her mind. The day before the necklace disappeared, she had been cleaning Vittoria's dressing table when she saw a strange reflection behind a perfume bottle, a small red box. Vittoria had closed the drawer quickly, pretending nothing happened. That box had the initials R.A. engraved in gold. Marina froze. R.A. Raphael Albuquerque. What if the necklace hadn't been stolen at all? What if it was a setup? She sat on the edge of her bed, her mind racing. Vittoria wanted her gone because of Miguel's affection. But maybe there was more. Maybe the accusation had been the perfect distraction from something else hidden in that house. And if Marina could prove it, she could destroy Vittoria's power from the inside. The next day, she returned to Blake Tower early. Lucas was waiting near the loading dock, cigarette in hand. "I heard what happened last night," he said. "You've got nerves of steel, girl." Marina smiled faintly. "You said something about proof, remember?" Lucas nodded. "Yeah, I might know where to start." He glanced around and lowered his voice. "Vittoria keeps everything, photos, letters, receipts, in an encrypted folder on her company laptop. She never deletes anything. If the truth is anywhere, it's there." Marina's pulse quickened. "Can you get me access?" "Maybe, but if she catches us, she'll destroy both our lives." Marina's eyes burned with quiet fire. "She already destroyed mine once." Lucas studied her face, then sighed. "All right, I'll help you, but we do it smart." He handed her a small flash drive. "This can copy hidden files automatically. You just have to plug it in and wait 60 seconds. Marina closed her fingers around it. 60 seconds that could change everything. The following evening, the gala preparations reached their peak. Workers moved like clockwork. Florists arranging white roses, chefs rushing in and out of the kitchen, decorators hanging lights that shimmered like captured stars. Marina arrived early, dressed in the same black uniform as everyone else, blending into the sea of anonymous faces. Inside her pocket, the flash drive burned like a secret. Lucas met her near the service elevator, carrying a clipboard to disguise their conversation. "Laptops in her office," he whispered. "Second floor, right side. She won't be there until after the sponsors' meeting. You'll have about 5 minutes, no more." Marina nodded. Her pulse quickened, but her expression stayed calm. "I only need one." Vittoria's private office inside the Blake Tower was more like a shrine to herself. White marble desk, photos of galas and newspaper clippings about her charity projects. Her laptop sat in the center, lid closed, waiting. Marina slipped in silently, her heart pounding in her ears. She plugged the flash drive into the side port. A small green light blinked once. Seconds crawled. 10, 20, 30. Each sound outside, the echo of shoes, the buzz of distant chatter, made her flinch. She imagined the door opening, Vittoria's perfume flooding the room. 45. 50. A progress bar flashed across the screen for an instant. Transfer complete. Marina yanked the flash drive out and slipped it into her pocket, just as voices grew louder in the hall. She turned toward the window, pretending to adjust the curtains. Vittoria entered, laughing with 2 executives. "I told you, gentlemen, image is everything. The right story can erase 1,000 truths." Marina froze. "Miss Oliveira?" Vittoria's tone sharpened when she noticed her. "What are you doing here?" Marina kept her voice even. "Just preparing the office for your guests, ma'am." Vittoria's eyes narrowed. "I don't remember authorizing you to touch anything." "I didn't," Marina said, lowering her gaze. "I was only fixing the curtains." Vittoria stared at her for a long second. Then, with a dismissive wave, she turned back to her guests. "You people always find ways to be where you don't belong." Marina bowed slightly and left before the anger in her chest could spill over. She met Lucas near the loading dock, the air thick with diesel and rain. "Got it," she whispered, handing him the flash drive. He plugged it into a small laptop he used for deliveries. Lines of code scrolled quickly across the screen. "Damn," he muttered. "She really does keep everything. Emails, contracts, even personal messages. Can you open the hidden folder?" He nodded, typing faster. A new window appeared filled with dozens of encrypted documents. Lucas opened one labeled Jewelry Insurance Claim, Confidential. Inside were scanned forms. Vittoria Albuquerque as claimant. Necklace appraised at 200,000 BRL. Status, reported stolen for insurance compensation. The date on the form was the same night of the accusation. Marina's eyes widened. She reported it stolen before calling the police. Lucas scrolled further and found a second document, an image attachment. When it loaded, Marina gasped. It was a photo of the necklace, intact, shining under a jewelry store light. The timestamp was 2 days after the party. "She pawned it," Marina whispered. "She staged everything." Lucas leaned back, whistling low. "If this goes public, she's finished." Marina took a deep breath. "Not yet. I need to be smart. I want her to admit it herself." Back at the mansion, Vittoria prepared for the gala, as if nothing in the world could touch her. She adjusted her diamond earrings in the mirror, new ones, smaller than the necklace she'd lost, but still extravagant. Raphael entered quietly. "The car's waiting." She smiled faintly. "You look nervous, dear. Are you still thinking about that little thief?" Raphael's jaw tightened. "She has a name." Vittoria's reflection hardened. "So does your son's future. Don't forget who pays for his care." He took a step closer. "You keep using money like a weapon, Vittoria. One day it'll turn against you." She laughed softly. "The only thing that turns is the world, Raphael, and it always turns in favor of people like me." But for the first time, a shadow crossed her eyes when he walked away. At the gala that night, golden light spilled through the glass hall. Music floated, people smiled, champagne sparkled, and somewhere among the staff, Marina watched from behind a tray of glasses. Her gaze found Raphael across the crowd. Their eyes met for just a second, enough to remind them both that truth still waited in the dark. Lucas slipped beside her. "Got something else?" he whispered. "Voice memos. One of them's dated the same night she called the cops." He handed her a small earpiece. Marina pressed play. Vittoria's recorded voice filled her ear. "If I report the necklace now, the insurance will process it before Monday. By then, that maid will be gone, and I'll have what's mine. Let her cry all she wants." Marina's blood ran cold. "Lucas," she whispered, her voice shaking, "keep this safe. Don't show anyone yet." "What are you planning?" Her eyes hardened. "Justice. But I want her to feel what I felt first." Later that night, when most guests had left, Marina stepped outside the tower. The rain had stopped, leaving the city glowing under wet light. She looked up at the skyscraper that had witnessed her humiliation and whispered to the night, "You took everything from me once, Vittoria. Now I'll take what you value most, your reputation." Her reflection stared back at her from the glass doors, not the timid maid anymore, but a woman reborn from fire. And somewhere inside that same tower, Vittoria laughed among the last of her guests, unaware that the walls around her empire had already begun to crack. Morning came heavy with fog, the city shrouded in silence. After the storm, Marina sat at the small table of her apartment, the flash drive resting in front of her like a loaded weapon. She stared at it for a long time, fingers tracing its metallic edge. That tiny object now held everything: proof, justice, revenge. Lucas's voice echoed in her mind from the night before. If this goes public, she's finished. She could already imagine the headlines. Socialite caught in insurance fraud. But it wasn't enough. Marina didn't just want Vittoria exposed. She wanted her to feel what it was like to lose everything while pretending to smile. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Marina, it's Raphael. We need to talk. Please meet me tomorrow, 6 p.m. at the park near the cathedral." Her heart skipped. Why now? Had he found out something, or did he simply want to see her again? Either way, she couldn't refuse. That night, Marina returned to work at Blake Tower, serving champagne again under chandeliers worth more than her entire life. Savings. Vittoria floated through the crowd in gold silk, her laughter echoing like glass breaking. People surrounded her, admiring her, envying her. They don't know yet, Marina thought. They don't know what you really are. At the edge of the room she saw Raphael. He looked different, haunted, tired, but awake. Their eyes met for a moment. He didn't smile. He simply nodded once, as if saying, "I see you." Vittoria noticed. Her expression stiffened, the smile on her lips turning brittle. Later, when Marina went to the service corridor to return the empty tray, Vittoria followed her. "I warned you," Vittoria hissed. "You're playing with fire." Marina didn't turn around. "Funny, I thought I was the one who got burned already." Vittoria's nails tapped against the wall. "Do you really think you can walk into my world again? You're nothing, girl. Nothing but a stain I'll wipe away." Marina finally faced her, eyes cold and steady. "Then you'd better start scrubbing, Senora, because I don't come off that easily." For the first time, Vittoria blinked, just once, but it was enough. Marina smiled slightly and walked away. The next afternoon, Raphael waited on a park bench under the wide canopy of a jacaranda tree. Purple petals fell around him like soft rain. When Marina arrived, she looked cautious but calm. "You came," he said quietly. "I wasn't sure I should. I wouldn't blame you if you hadn't," he admitted. "But I needed to see you." He handed her an envelope. "It's a letter of recommendation for future work. I know it doesn't erase what happened, but—" Marina hesitated, then took it. "Thank you." Raphael watched her, his eyes filled with guilt. "I found out about the insurance claim," he said. "Vittoria filed it before she called the police." Marina froze. "You saw it?" "I confronted her. She said it was a precaution, but I know what it means." "Then do something," Marina said, her voice trembling. "You have the power to stop her." He shook his head. "Not yet. Every company document, every legal paper, she controls them all. If I move too soon, she'll bury it." Marina's lips tightened. "So you want me to wait? Again?" He met her eyes. "No, I want to help you." A pause. Rain began to fall softly through the leaves. "She ruined your name," he continued. "Let me help clear it. I don't care what it costs me anymore." Marina studied him carefully, searching for deceit, and found none. Only exhaustion and truth. "Then you'll stand by me?" He nodded. "Until the end." Something flickered between them, unspoken, fragile but real. Back at the mansion that evening, Vittoria paced the hallway, talking on the phone with her lawyer. "I don't care what it takes," she said sharply. "Find a way to stop that girl from working anywhere near me. If you have to pay off the agency, do it. I don't want to see her face again." She hung up and caught her reflection in the mirror. For the first time, she didn't like what she saw. The lines around her eyes, the tension in her mouth. Fear had begun to seep through the cracks of her perfection. A small noise made her turn. Miguel stood at the doorway, his stuffed elephant in his hands. "Grandma," he said softly, "why do you hate Marina?" Vittoria blinked. "What did you say?" "She's nice. She sings to me. You made her cry." Her chest tightened. "Miguel, sweetheart, sometimes adults—" "Papa says you lie." Vittoria's voice caught. "Go to bed, Miguel." He looked at her for a long moment, then turned and walked away. When he was gone, Vittoria poured herself a drink, hands shaking. She didn't understand it. Why her chest felt heavy, why her pulse quickened. It wasn't guilt. It couldn't be. She whispered to her reflection, "She's gone. She can't touch me." But she was wrong. That same night, Marina and Lucas sat in a small cafe, laptop open between them. They replayed Vittoria's recorded voice, over and over. Each time they listened, it sounded colder, more deliberate. Lucas glanced at her. "You sure you want to release this?" "Not yet," Marina said. "First I'll let her destroy herself." "How?" Marina smiled faintly. "By giving her exactly what she wants. Attention." She leaned closer, her voice low and calm. "Tomorrow, at the charity event, she'll be surrounded by cameras and press. I'm going to make her confess." Lucas stared. "You're insane." "Maybe," Marina said, "but the truth needs a stage." Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. The storm wasn't over. It was only gathering strength. The following evening, the Albuquerque Foundation Charity Gala transformed the city's old theater into a cathedral of luxury. Chandeliers dripped light like liquid gold, and cameras flashed from every corner. Reporters in suits whispered names, hungry for headlines. Vittoria stood at the center of it all, graceful, glowing, untouchable. Her gown shimmered like molten sunlight. Her diamonds screamed power. To the crowd, she was a saint. To Marina, hidden among the staff at the back of the hall, she was a storm waiting to be exposed. Lucas adjusted the small microphone hidden inside Marina's tray. "It's live," he whispered. "Once she starts her speech, the feed goes directly to the press network's live stream. One word from her, and the truth will travel faster than she ever imagined." Marina nodded, her face calm, but her hands trembling beneath the white gloves. "This is it." The orchestra's music faded as Vittoria took the stage. Applause thundered through the theatre. "Good evening, my friends," she began, voice smooth and honeyed. "Tonight, we gather not only to celebrate generosity, but to remember what makes us human: compassion." Marina almost laughed. "Compassion," Vittoria continued, smiling perfectly for the cameras. "In times of hardship, we must open our hearts and help those who cannot help themselves. And no matter what others say about the wealthy, we too suffer. We too endure loss." That last line was the cue. Marina's stomach knotted. Lucas met her gaze across the room and gave the signal. She moved silently toward the side of the stage, pretending to serve champagne. Vittoria went on, milking the applause. "Last year, I faced a personal tragedy, a robbery, right here in my home. But even in the face of betrayal, I chose forgiveness." Marina stepped forward, placing the tray on the table near the microphone. The lights shifted, cameras panned closer to Vittoria. She smiled sweetly until Marina's voice echoed through the sound system. "Forgiveness?" Every head turned. Vittoria froze, her smile faltering. "Excuse me." Marina stepped into the light, her uniform spotless, her eyes burning. "You say you forgave betrayal, Senora Vittoria. But tell everyone, what exactly did you forgive? The robbery you invented, or the necklace you pawned 2 days later?" Gasps erupted. The journalists in the front row instinctively raised their cameras. Vittoria's face drained of color. "You have no right." "I have every right," Marina said, her voice shaking but clear. "You accuse me of stealing what you had already sold for insurance money. You destroyed my name to cover your greed." Vittoria's hand shot toward the microphone. "Cut the sound. Someone cut." But Lucas was faster. He locked the feed. On the giant screens above the stage, a video began to play, the audio recording of Vittoria's own voice. "If I report the necklace now, the insurance will process it before Monday. By then, that maid will be gone, and I'll have what's mine." The room exploded in chaos. Guests whispered, some gasped, some filmed with their phones. Vittoria's image filled the screen, her words echoing again and again. "That maid will be gone." Raphael, standing near the edge of the stage, went pale. He hadn't known about the recording. Vittoria turned toward him, desperate. "It's fake. She's lying." Raphael's voice cut through the noise. "No, you're lying." The words hit harder than any slap. Vittoria staggered backward, mascara smudging, the perfect mask of wealth cracking. "Under the lights. You ungrateful. Everything you have comes from me." "Then maybe I don't want it anymore," Raphael said, stepping closer. "Because it's built on someone else's pain." Security moved in, uncertain whether to protect her or stop her. Marina's eyes softened slightly. "I didn't come here for revenge, Vittoria. I came for truth, and now everyone can see it." She turned, walking off the stage amid the chaos, flashes, and shouts. Vittoria screamed after her, voice echoing through the hall. "You'll regret this. I'll ruin you again." But the microphones were still on, the cameras were still rolling, and the world had already seen who the real thief was. Outside, rain began to fall again, gentle, cleansing. Marina stood beneath the theater's marquee, breathing in the wet night air as sirens approached in the distance. Lucas joined her, his expression a mix of awe and fear. "You actually did it," he said. "You destroyed her." Marina shook her head. "No, she destroyed herself." Raphael stepped out moments later, his suit damp from the rain. He looked at her silently before speaking. "I should have believed you." Marina's eyes glistened. "Now you know why I couldn't stay quiet." He nodded slowly. "I'll make things right. For you, for Miguel." The faint sound of applause came from inside, not for Vittoria this time, but for the woman who had dared to stand up to her. For the first time in months, Marina allowed herself to cry, not from pain, but from release. Lucas smiled, faintly. "So what happens now?" Marina looked out at the flashing police lights reflecting on the wet pavement. "Now," she said softly, "now I start living." By dawn, São Paulo's headlines were already burning with her name. Philanthropist accused of insurance fraud. Housekeeper vindicated in viral video. Clips of the confrontation flooded every screen, from breakfast TV to gossip blogs. Vittoria's face, once a symbol of elegance, looped endlessly as her own voice confessed her crime. Inside her mansion, the curtains stayed shut. Reporters camped at the gate, flashes bursting like fireworks every time a car passed. Vittoria sat on the floor of her room, barefoot, a glass of untouched whiskey beside her. The news anchor's voice echoed from the TV. Authorities are now investigating financial discrepancies in multiple foundations linked to the Albuquerque family. Her phone buzzed non-stop, calls from lawyers, sponsors, journalists. She threw it against the wall. It shattered into silence. For the first time, there was no one left to command, no one left to fear her. Across town, Marina walked through the same streets that had once felt cruel. But now, people stopped her, not with suspicion, but with respect. "You're that girl from the video," a florist said, handing her a rose. "You were brave." Marina smiled faintly, still overwhelmed by the attention. "I just told the truth." "Sometimes," the woman said, "that's the bravest thing of all." That afternoon, she met Raphael at a small cafe near the park. He looked different, lighter somehow, though exhaustion lingered in his eyes. "Vittoria's under investigation," he said quietly. "Her accounts are frozen. The board's cutting her from every project." Marina sipped her coffee. "She'll fight it." "She already tried," Raphael said with a sad smile, "but this time she doesn't have an army behind her." Silence settled for a moment between them. Then Raphael reached into his jacket and slid a folded document across the table. "What's this?" "It's your reinstatement," he said. "Your record's cleared, and I want you back at the company, not as a cleaner, as head of staff, full benefits. You deserve it." Marina looked at the paper, her throat tight. "You don't owe me anything, Raphael." He leaned forward. "I owe you everything. You taught me what integrity looks like." Her eyes softened. "And what about Miguel?" "He keeps asking for you," Raphael admitted. "He barely sleeps without your song. I think he misses you, more than he misses his toys." Marina smiled for the first time in days. "Then maybe I should visit." "You should," Raphael said. "He'll be thrilled." Their hands brushed as he passed her the paper. Neither pulled away for a long moment. Later that evening, Marina stood in front of her mirror again. The same cracked one from her tiny apartment. But this time, she didn't see the maid who'd been broken. She saw a woman who had rebuilt herself from dust and lies. She tied her hair neatly and whispered, "It's time to stop surviving. It's time to live." At the mansion, Miguel waited by the gate, clutching his stuffed elephant. When Marina arrived, he ran toward her so fast Raphael barely caught him before he fell. "Marina!" he shouted, laughing. "You came back!" She knelt, hugging him tight. "I promised I would." Raphael watched them, emotion caught in his throat. Inside the house, everything felt different, quiet, stripped of its arrogance. The air no longer carried the scent of expensive perfume, but something simpler. Peace. Marina spent the afternoon helping Miguel with his drawings. He made one of 3 people holding hands beneath a sun, brighter than ever. "That's you, me, and Papa," he said proudly. Raphael smiled. "Looks like family to me." Marina glanced at him, her cheeks warming. "Maybe it is." Meanwhile, in a luxury apartment downtown, Vittoria stared at the city skyline through floor-to-ceiling glass. Her empire was collapsing. The calls had stopped. Her name had turned toxic, but even then she refused to cry. "I built this world," she whispered. "I can rebuild it." She opened her laptop, connecting to an offshore account, fingers trembling as she typed. But before she could finish, the screen went black. System locked. A message appeared. "Account seized. Fraud investigation underway." Vittoria screamed, slamming the laptop shut. The echo filled the empty room. On the wall behind her, the golden frame of her late husband's portrait tilted and fell, shattering the glass. For the first time, she realized what it meant to lose everything she couldn't buy back. That night, Raphael stood by the balcony with a cup of tea, watching the city lights flicker. Marina joined him quietly, her hair loose, her eyes reflecting the soft glow. He glanced at her. "I keep thinking about everything that happened, about how we both changed." Marina looked out at the skyline. "Sometimes life breaks you to rebuild you right." He smiled faintly. "I don't think I ever told you this, but when you sang to Miguel the first time I saw it, it felt like the house finally breathed again, like light entered after years of darkness." She turned to him. "And you? Have you forgiven yourself?" He hesitated. "I'm trying." Marina reached for his hand, gently. "Then you're already halfway there." The wind brushed past them, carrying the faint scent of rain and new beginnings. Back in the city center, TV screens replayed the final moments of the gala. Marina standing, tall beneath the lights, speaking truth to power. The world had found its new story, the humble woman who faced wealth and won. But for Marina, the victory wasn't fame or justice. It was freedom. Freedom to walk without shame. Freedom to love without fear. Freedom to finally breathe. Days passed quietly after the storm. The city moved on to new scandals, new headlines. But inside Marina's heart, something still stirred. A strange mix of relief, peace, and a faint ache that refused to fade. She had won. The world knew the truth, yet victory felt lonely. Every morning she woke early, made coffee, and helped her mother prepare for the day. The sunlight on the kitchen tiles, the scent of eucalyptus, they grounded her again. Still, some nights she'd wake up thinking of Miguel's laughter or Raphael's quiet eyes, and sometimes of Vittoria. She would see flashes of the woman's face at the gala, furious, broken, proud. It haunted her more than she wanted to admit. One afternoon, Marina was in the park sketching in a small notebook Miguel had given her. A shadow fell across the page. "Drawing?" a familiar voice asked. She looked up. Raphael, jeans, rolled sleeves, holding 2 coffees. "I wasn't sure if you still liked this place," he said. "I do," she replied softly. "It's peaceful here." He handed her one of the cups. "I thought you might need warmth." She smiled faintly. "Always." They sat in silence for a while, watching the sunlight filter through the jacaranda leaves. The city. Noise was distant, like a memory. Finally, Raphael spoke. "Miguel's therapy is going well. He draws again, sings again. He keeps one of your songs recorded on my phone." Marina smiled. "He's a special boy. He deserves to grow up in peace." Raphael looked down. "He will, but only if we build that peace too." He hesitated. "Marina, I wanted to tell you something." Her heart skipped, but she stayed still. "My divorce papers are final," he said. "I'm free, and I don't mean just legally. I feel like I'm breathing for the first time in years." She nodded quietly. "Freedom costs, doesn't it?" He smiled. "Everything worth having does." A long silence followed, not awkward, but heavy with what neither dared to say. That night, Marina returned home to find an envelope slipped under her door, her name written in neat, expensive handwriting. No sender. Inside was a folded letter and a bank check for 50,000 reais. The letter read, "You destroyed me, but you were right to do so. Keep this. Consider it repayment for what I took from you, your reputation, your peace, your time. I don't expect forgiveness, only silence." V. Albuquerque Marina stared at the paper for a long time, anger and pity twisting together. She could cash it. It would solve months of debt, help her mother's treatment, but then she thought of everything that money had cost, the lies, the pain, the humiliation. She tore the check in half, then again, until it was nothing but scraps. Her mother watched from the couch. Was it something important, Fila? Marina smiled softly. No, Mai. Just something I don't need anymore. Meanwhile, in a quiet hotel suite across the city, Vittoria sat by the window with an untouched glass of wine. Her phone vibrated. Another alert, another headline. She closed it. For the first time in her life, she had nowhere to go, no one to call. Her reflection in the window was almost unrecognizable, stripped of makeup, of diamonds, of pride. She whispered to herself, "Who am I without all of it?" The question hung in the air with no answer. Then a knock on the door. She frowned. When she opened it, she froze. Miguel stood there, holding Rafael's hand. Marina beside them. Vittoria's breath caught. "Why are you here?" Rafael's voice was calm. "Because it's time to stop hiding." Marina looked her in the eye. "He wanted to see you." Miguel stepped forward. "Grandma, are you still mad at Marina?" Vittoria blinked, her throat tightening. "No, meu amor, I'm not mad." "Then can you hug her?" Vittoria's lips trembled. For a moment, pride battled something deeper. Then she knelt, slowly, painfully, and opened her arms. Miguel pushed Marina forward gently. The hug was brief, awkward, but real. When they pulled apart, Vittoria whispered, "I don't deserve forgiveness." Marina met her gaze. "Maybe not, but forgiveness isn't something we earn. It's something we need." Vittoria's tears finally fell, quietly. That night, as they left the hotel, Miguel skipped ahead, humming softly. Rafael and Marina walked side by side through the cool air. "She's lost everything," Marina said quietly. "Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself," Rafael replied. Marina glanced at him, smiling faintly. "Maybe that's true for all of us." He nodded. "So what will you do now?" She looked up at the stars. "Live, but this time, for me." He smiled. "Then let me be part of that life." Marina hesitated, then took his hand. The city stretched before them, vast and shining, as if forgiving them all. 2 months later, the rhythm of Marina's new life had settled into something quiet and beautiful. She now lived in a small house near the coast, a place where mornings smelled like sea salt and jasmine, and the sound of waves replaced the noise of traffic. Her days began with sunrise and the sound of her mother's laughter in the kitchen. The simplicity of it all made her heart ache in the best way. Every morning, she took the bus to the new company, headquarters, where she now worked as operations manager, overseeing staff, schedules, and community projects. Her name badge, once a reminder of shame, now gleamed with pride. Rafael visited often. At first, it was about Miguel, updates on his therapy, new drawings he wanted her to see. But over time, the visits grew longer, quieter, warmer. Sometimes they'd walk along the pier in the evenings, their conversations gentle, unhurried. The ocean had a way of softening everything, even pain. One night, as the sun melted into gold over the horizon, Rafael turned to her. "Do you ever regret it? Exposing her?" Marina thought for a long moment. "No, but sometimes I wonder if I could have done it differently, with less hate." He nodded. "You didn't destroy her, Marina. The truth did." She looked at him, the wind brushing her hair. "And you? Have you spoken to her?" He sighed. "Once. She's living quietly in a small apartment now. No staff, no events, just silence. She says she's learning what money can't fix." Marina smiled sadly. "Maybe that's the only lesson worth learning." That weekend, she and her mother visited the market. People greeted them by name now. Some recognized Marina from the viral video, but treated her like an old friend, not a celebrity. "Life has a way of circling back," her mother said, examining fresh fruit. "When you were young, you used to tell me you'd have a life full of light. You were right, Fila. You found it again. Marina hugged her tightly. Thanks to you, Mai. You never let me forget who I was. One afternoon, as she was organizing files at work, a knock came at her door. It was a delivery, a plain box with no return address. Inside, she found a small jewelry case. Not the original necklace, but a replica. Elegant, simple, with a note attached. You once lost everything because of a jewel. Now you deserve to wear one freely. Ah. Marina smiled, her eyes misting. She placed the necklace around her neck and looked at her reflection in the glass. Not the reflection of a maid or a victim, but a woman who had earned every piece of her peace. Meanwhile, far away, Victoria stood outside a community center, clutching a folder of papers. Her once flawless hands now bore faint calluses. Inside, a poster read, "Volunteers needed, soup kitchen project." She hesitated at the door. Then, with a deep breath, she entered. "Welcome," said the woman at the desk. "Name?" "Victoria Albuquerque," she answered quietly. "I'd like to help." For a moment, the woman looked at her curiously, perhaps recognizing the face once plastered across the news, but simply smiled. "We can always use another pair of hands." Victoria nodded, rolling up her sleeves. For the first time in years, she felt human. Weeks later, Rafael and Miguel arrived at Marina's home, carrying a basket of seashells. Miguel ran inside first, shouting, "Marina, I found the biggest one!" Marina laughed, kneeling to see the boy's prize, a spiral shell glimmering with silver. "It's beautiful, Miguel," he grinned. "Like you." Rafael chuckled behind him. "Careful, champ, you'll make her blush." Marina looked up at Rafael. The air between them was different now, lighter, steady, filled with warmth rather than longing. She motioned toward the table. "Stay for dinner?" He smiled. "I was hoping you'd ask." As they ate, Miguel told endless stories, each one more absurd than the last. The room filled with laughter, the kind that comes from people who have been through storms and learned to dance in the rain afterward. Later, after Miguel fell asleep on the couch, Rafael stood beside her at the window. The sea shimmered under the moonlight. "You built a good life," he said softly. "We built it," she corrected. He turned to her, eyes searching hers. "May I?" Marina smiled and nodded. He kissed her gently, not like a man claiming something, but like one finally finding home. Outside, the waves whispered against the shore, carrying away everything that no longer mattered. The days stretched into a peaceful rhythm. The sound of waves became Marina's alarm clock, and laughter filled her home more often than silence. But just when everything seemed to find its balance, life, like the tide, began to shift again. It started with a phone call. She was at her office, reviewing documents, when her assistant peeked in. "Marina, there's someone asking for you." She said her name is Victoria. The pen froze in her hand. For a moment she couldn't breathe. Then calm and steady she stood. "Send her in." Victoria entered quietly, wearing a simple grey dress, no jewelry, no makeup. She looked older, so much older. The arrogance that once defined her had vanished, replaced by something raw, almost fragile. "Thank you for seeing me," Victoria said, voice low. Marina gestured toward the chair. "Please, sit." Victoria hesitated before sitting, folding her hands in her lap like a child waiting to be scolded. "I wasn't sure you'd agree to talk to me." "I wasn't sure." "Either," Marina replied honestly. A long silence stretched between them. The air was thick with the ghosts of everything that had passed, the humiliation, the revenge, the truth that had burned them both. Finally, Victoria spoke. "I came to say goodbye." Marina frowned. "Goodbye?" Victoria nodded. "I'm leaving Brazil. A friend from Europe offered me a position managing a small charity. Nothing glamorous, but it's a start. I'm trying to make amends, even if it's too late for some things." Marina studied her quietly. "That's good." Victoria smiled faintly, a sad, tired smile. "You know, for years I thought people respected me because I was strong, but they only feared me. She paused, her voice trembling. "You're the first person who ever made me see who I really was." Marina said nothing. Vittoria reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. "There's something you should have, something I should have given you long ago." Inside was a photograph. Raphael, his late wife, and a much younger Vittoria holding baby Miguel. On the back, in faded ink, a note, "For our family, may love always guide us." Marina touched the photo gently. "Why give me this?" "Because you remind me of her," Vittoria said softly. "Raphael's wife. She was kind, like you, and I hated her for it. I thought kindness was weakness, but now I know. It's the only real strength." Tears welled in Vittoria's eyes, but she didn't wipe them away. "I can't undo what I did," she said. "But if you can, please, tell Raphael I'm sorry. Tell him I know he was right to choose truth over blood." Marina swallowed hard. "You should tell him yourself." Vittoria shook her head. "He won't see me." "I understand." She stood slowly, adjusting her coat. "Take care of Miguel. He deserves a world better than the one I tried to build." As she reached the door, Marina spoke. "Vittoria." The older woman turned. "I forgave you," Marina said quietly. "The night I saw you at the hotel. I just didn't know it yet." Vittoria's eyes glistened. "Then maybe there's hope for me after all." And with that she left, walking away not like a queen stripped of her crown, but like a woman finally free from her own chains. That evening, Marina told Raphael about the visit. He listened in silence, his expression unreadable. "She said she's leaving," Marina said softly. He nodded slowly. "I know. She called me too. I didn't answer." Marina reached for his hand. "Maybe you should. Not for her. For you." He sighed, looking out toward the darkening sky. "She caused so much damage, I can't forget that." "No," Marina said gently, "but you can let it stop hurting." He looked at her, the weight of years in his eyes. "You really believe people can change?" Marina smiled faintly. "If I didn't, I wouldn't be here." Her words hung between them like a quiet truth neither could deny. The next day, Marina found a small package at her doorstep. No note, no name. Inside was a golden locket, the very same one Vittoria had accused her of, stealing years ago. It gleamed in the sunlight, untouched, perfect. Inside the locket was a folded piece of paper, a single line written in elegant script. "Truth, like light, always finds its way back." Marina closed it gently, tears filling her eyes. She understood. Vittoria hadn't just returned the locket, she had returned her peace. Weeks later, Marina and Raphael took Miguel to the beach at sunset. The boy ran barefoot through the sand, chasing waves, laughter echoing through the breeze. Raphael watched him and whispered, "I think we're finally okay." Marina nodded. "Yes, I think so too." He looked at her with quiet tenderness. "You know, I used to believe power was about control. Now I know it's about compassion. You taught me that." She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "And you taught me that forgiveness doesn't make us weak. It makes us free." The waves rolled in, golden light spilling over the horizon, the sky painted in the colors of closure and beginning. Behind them, Miguel's voice carried through the wind. "Papa, Marina, look, I wrote something." They turned to see his little message traced in the sand, uneven but clear. "We're a family." Marina smiled, tears of joy blurring her vision. For the first time in forever, the sea didn't sound like a memory. It sounded like home. A year passed, the kind of year that doesn't rush, but reshapes everything in quiet, steady ways. Marina's life had changed again, not through chaos this time, but through growth. The scars were still there, invisible yet profound, like gold veins running through porcelain. But instead of hiding them, she built something from them. Her new initiative, the Light Project, had begun as a small idea scribbled on a napkin one night. A community program offering job training and emotional support for women who had been mistreated or falsely accused, just like she once was. Now it had grown into something real. A rented hall, a few computers, volunteers who believed in second chances, and most of all, hope. Every morning, Marina stood before a group of women, some broken, some afraid, all searching for a way to begin again, and said the same words, "Your past doesn't define you. What you do with it does." Each time she said it, she felt it healing another piece of her own heart. One afternoon, as she was organizing donation boxes, a little boy's laughter filled the hallway. Miguel came running in, barefoot as always, his hair wild from the sea breeze. "Marina!" he shouted, holding a jar full of coins. "We collected money for your project at school." She knelt, smiling, as he handed her the jar, heavy, clinking with coins of all colors. "Meu amor, that's amazing. Did you do this all by yourself?" He grinned. "Papa helped, and my teacher said people like you make the world better." Marina's eyes softened. "You already make it better, Miguel." Behind him, Rafael entered, smiling quietly. He carried a box of donated supplies, notebooks, pens, even a few computers. "The city council wants to support your project," he said. "They saw the article about you last week." Marina blinked in surprise. "Article?" He grinned and held up a folded newspaper. On the front page, "From Maid to Mentor, the woman who turned injustice into change." A photo of her standing in front of the Light Project sign, surrounded by smiling women. Marina stared at it, speechless. "I didn't even know they were writing this." "I think the world needed your story," Raphael said, gently. "Not the pain, the strength." She looked at him, overwhelmed. "You always know what to say." He laughed softly. "That's new." Later that evening, they walked along the beach as the sky turned pink and gold. Miguel ran ahead, chasing the waves, his laughter echoing across the shore. "Do you ever think about her?" Raphael asked quietly. "Vittoria?" Marina nodded. "Sometimes. I wonder if she found peace." He looked out at the horizon. "I heard from an old friend. She's working in a children's shelter in Portugal. Apparently she's doing well. Quiet, humble." Marina smiled faintly. "Then maybe we all got what we needed." They stopped by a small cafe overlooking the sea. Raphael ordered coffee, she ordered tea. When the waiter left, he reached into his jacket pocket and placed something on the table. A small velvet box. Marina froze. "Raphael," he smiled, a little nervous. "It's not what you think. Not yet." He opened it. Inside, a delicate gold ring with a tiny engraved word. "Faith, not for marriage," he said softly, "for promise. A promise that no matter what happens next, we'll keep building this life. Not from guilt, not from pain, but from love." Marina's eyes shimmered. "You already keep that promise every day." He slid the ring onto her finger. "Then let's make it official." Weeks passed, and the Light Project grew beyond what anyone expected. Journalists came, donors reached out, and even a few corporations offered partnerships. But Marina never let the glamour return. She refused to let fame corrupt purpose again. She worked side by side with the women, teaching, cleaning, laughing. Sometimes she'd sit with them at the end of the day, sharing stories of resilience. One woman, eyes filled with tears, once asked, "How did you forgive her after everything?" Marina smiled softly. "Because I didn't want to live in the same prison she built." One afternoon, Raphael arrived with a surprise. He and Miguel had painted a mural on the outer wall. Of the foundation, it showed a woman standing in sunlight, her hands raised, golden light spilling around her. Miguel beamed. "That's you, Marina. Papa helped with the colors, but I made the sun." Marina stared at the painting, tears filling her eyes. "It's beautiful." Raphael put an arm around her shoulder. "It's your story, and now it belongs to everyone who needs hope." That night, after locking the foundation's door, Marina lingered under the stars. The sea murmured softly nearby, the breeze carrying faint laughter from the volunteers walking home. She touched the ring on her finger, smiled, and whispered to the night, "Thank you for everything, even the pain. It made me who I am." A single shooting star crossed the sky, quick, bright, silent. And in that moment, Marina knew she had not only changed her fate, She had rewritten it. The following year unfolded like a dream that refused to end. What had begun as a local initiative turned into something much greater. The Light Project had become a movement, one that stretched across borders, languages, and lives. Television networks ran stories about it. Universities invited Marina to speak about resilience and leadership. Even government officials attended the foundation's anniversary gala. But Marina never allowed the fame to steal her humility. Every morning, she arrived early to sweep the front steps of the building herself. It wasn't about the image. It was about remembrance. She wanted to remember who she had been when no one believed her. That morning, sunlight poured through the glass windows of the foundation's main hall. Dozens of women bustled around, preparing for a special day, the Light Project's first anniversary celebration. Banners fluttered, flowers lined the stage, and a large sign read, "From Pain to Purpose." Marina stood near the podium reviewing her speech. Her palms felt warm, not from nerves but from gratitude. Raphael approached, wearing a dark blue suit. Miguel followed, holding a small bouquet of white lilies. "For you, Marina," the boy said, handing her the flowers. She knelt, hugging him. "Obrigada, meu anjo. They're perfect." Raphael smiled. "You know, I still remember when you couldn't look anyone in the eye after what happened. And now you'll be standing in front of an entire country." Marina laughed softly. "I'm not speaking for a country. I'm speaking for every woman who was told she wasn't enough." Raphael's gaze lingered on her. "You've become everything they said you couldn't." She looked at him, her voice gentle. "No, Raphael, I just stopped believing them." That evening, the auditorium was full. Journalists, sponsors, volunteers, and women whose lives had been changed filled every seat. The hum of anticipation was electric. When Marina stepped onto the stage, applause roared. She stood still for a moment, her eyes sweeping over the crowd. "Thank you," she began, her voice steady. "A year ago, I stood in a place of darkness, not because of what people did to me, but because I believed their lies. I thought my worth depended on their approval, but the truth is, we are never defined by the voices that break us, only by the strength we use to rise again." The audience went silent. Even the cameras seemed to hold their breath. She continued, "The Light Project is not about me. It's about us. Every woman here who found courage when the world turned its back. Every child who saw their mother stand again. Every person who realized that dignity doesn't come from wealth or status. It comes from the heart." A murmur of emotion rippled through the crowd. She paused, her gaze softening. "A wise woman once told me that forgiveness doesn't make us weak. It makes us free. And today, I finally understand those words." Somewhere in the back row, hidden among the guests, Vittoria sat quietly, her hair now silver, her clothes simple. No one recognized her. But when Marina said those words, Vittoria's eyes filled with tears. Marina looked straight toward the shadows at the back of the room, as if she felt Vittoria's presence, and said, "To those who once hurt us, I say this: thank you. Because you taught us that the heart, when broken, doesn't just heal, it expands." The crowd rose to their feet, clapping, cheering, crying. Raphael stood as well, tears shimmering in his eyes. Miguel jumped up and down, shouting, "That's my Marina!" Later, when the event ended and the crowd began to leave, Marina stood alone in the quiet hall. She could still feel the echo of applause in her chest. Then she sensed someone behind her. "Beautiful speech," a familiar voice said. She turned. Vittoria stood there, her expression gentle, her eyes wet. "I wasn't sure I should come," Vittoria said softly, "but I needed to see it for myself. What light really looks like." Marina smiled faintly. "You found it." Vittoria nodded. "And so did you." For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was no longer heavy. It was sacred. Then Vittoria reached into her purse and handed Marina a folded document. "This belongs to you. I started the process months ago." Marina opened it. It was a legal deed transferring ownership of one of Vittoria's old estates, the same one where everything had happened. "I don't want reminders," Vittoria said quietly, "but maybe that place can be reborn. Turn it into a home for women who need safety. Let it mean something again." Marina's throat tightened. "Are you sure?" Vittoria smiled sadly. "Completely. The past belongs to you now, not to my pride." Marina stepped closer and hugged her gently. This time, Vittoria didn't hesitate. Weeks later, construction began at the mansion. The marble floors that had once witnessed humiliation now echoed with the laughter of children. The grand chandelier was replaced with soft lights. The rooms filled with hope instead of fear. A new sign was placed outside the gates. "The Light Home, a safe place to begin again." Marina stood before it, tears streaming down her face. Raphael slipped his arm around her shoulders. "You turned the darkest place of your life into light," he whispered. Marina nodded. Maybe that's what healing really means. That night, as the moon rose over the sea, Marina walked along the sand, barefoot, her dress brushing the waves. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you, God, for not giving me what I wanted, but what I needed." The ocean answered softly, and somewhere far away, in a quiet apartment in Lisbon, Vittoria looked up from her journal and smiled, as if she had heard the same prayer. 5 years later, the ocean hadn't changed. Still endless, still whispering secrets to anyone who cared to listen. But everything else had. The once wounded woman who had walked those sands alone was now one of Brazil's most admired philanthropists. The Light Project had grown into a network of homes, workshops, and schools across the country. Women who had once been invisible were now teachers, artists, nurses, entrepreneurs. And in every center, one framed photo hung on the wall. Marina, smiling, holding hands with a small group of women under the golden sign, "Your scars are proof that you survived." Marina woke early that morning, sunlight painting her bedroom in soft gold. She sat at the edge of the bed for a moment, listening to the distant waves. The air smelled of coffee and cinnamon. Raphael was already awake. She smiled. In the kitchen, she found him humming as he cooked breakfast. His hair had a few strands of grey now, and she teased him for it often, but she secretly loved them. He looked up. "Bom dia, my love." She kissed his cheek. "Bom dia. What's the occasion?" He grinned. 10 years since the night we met." Marina laughed. 10 years since you almost let your mother ruin my life, you mean?" He winced playfully. "A detail I'll never live down." She chuckled, shaking her head. "I forgave you a long time ago." "I know," he said softly, sliding a cup of coffee to her. "But I'll keep earning it anyway." They shared a quiet breakfast, the kind filled with the comfort of people who didn't need words to feel understood. Later that day, they visited the Light Home, the renovated mansion that had once been the scene of her humiliation. Now, it was a sanctuary filled with laughter and life, the sound of sewing machines, children reading, women learning. The air was alive with purpose. As she walked through the corridors, she paused at a familiar spot, the grand hall where she had once been accused in front of a crowd. Now the walls were covered with colorful paintings made by the women who lived there. She placed her hand gently against the wall, closing her eyes. A voice interrupted her thoughts. "Marina!" She turned. A young woman stood there holding a baby. Her eyes were tired but hopeful. "I wanted to thank you," the woman said. "I was lost before I came here, but now I'm studying again. My daughter has a future." Marina smiled warmly. "That's why we're here. To remind you that your story isn't over." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how to repay you." Marina shook her head. "You already have, by not giving up." In the afternoon, Miguel arrived at the foundation, now a teenager taller than both of them. His voice had deepened, but his eyes were the same, kind, full of light. He hugged Marina tightly. "Guess what?" "What?" she asked, smiling. "I got into university, on scholarship, social work. I want to help people like you do." Marina's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, meu amor, I'm so proud of you." Raphael, standing behind him, looked like he might burst with pride. "I told him he could have picked anything," he said, grinning. "He said helping people was in his blood." Marina laughed softly. "He's right. It runs in the family." That evening, they gathered outside as the sun dipped behind the sea. Volunteers, families, children, all together under strings of golden lights that danced in the wind. Marina stood by the microphone, but this time she didn't speak about pain or injustice. She spoke about gratitude. "When I was lost," she said, her voice carrying through the warm air, "I prayed for strength. I didn't know that strength would come disguised as pain, as failure, as loss. But it did. And because of that, I found truth. I found love. I found all of you." Applause rose, mixed with the sounds of the ocean. "And tonight," she continued, "I dedicate this moment to every woman who believed her story had ended. You are not broken. You are becoming." The crowd stood, clapping, cheering, some crying openly. Raphael watched her from the side of the stage, his heart full. He had seen her at her lowest. And now, radiant, fearless, glowing in the golden light, she was everything she was meant to be. When the event ended and the stars began to bloom across the sky, Marina and Raphael walked hand in hand along the shore. The waves lapped at their feet, cool and gentle. He stopped, looking at her. "You... No, I sometimes wonder if things had to happen exactly as they did for us to end up here." Marina nodded. "They did, because the worst day of my life gave me the best one." He smiled. "Which one was that?" She looked up at him, eyes shimmering. "The day I realized I could forgive and still move on." Raphael cupped her face, kissing her forehead. "I love you, Marina." "I know," she whispered, smiling. "I love you too." The sea wind swirled around them, carrying their laughter out into the night. Far away in Portugal, Victoria sat by the window of the children's shelter, surrounded by kids drawing on the floor. One of the girls climbed into her lap, showing her a messy crayon picture. A woman standing in sunlight. Victoria smiled faintly, tears welling in her eyes. The little girl asked, "Who is she?" Victoria whispered, "Someone who taught me what light means." Years went by, the kind of years that don't erase the past, but soften it. The ocean stayed the same. The waves came and went. The sky poured storms and then cleared again and again. And through it all, Marina's life kept unfolding like a book she never imagined she'd be allowed to write. The Light Project was no longer just a project. It was a network. A living, breathing web of centers, homes and people. Brazil, Portugal, Argentina, Mozambique, little dots on the map, all connected by one idea. No one should ever be destroyed by a lie. Marina didn't run everything anymore. She couldn't. There were too many branches, too many lives. But her presence was everywhere, in the founding principles, in the way every woman was greeted when she walked through the door. "You're safe here. You are believed here. You start again here." On a warm afternoon, the old mansion-turned-shelter buzzed with movement. There were children playing in the garden, women tending to flowers, volunteers hauling boxes inside. Inside the main hall, the hall where once a rich woman had screamed, "Thief!" a stage had been set. A banner hung overhead. The Light Project, 15 years of hope. Marina stood backstage for a moment, looking out at the people filling the seats. Survivors, staff, donors, journalists, politicians. And in the middle row, the people who mattered most. Raphael, older now but with the same soft eyes. Miguel in his 20s, tall, confident, wearing a suit with a simple pin that read Light. And beside them, a little girl with curly hair in a yellow dress, dangling her legs off the chair. Marina's granddaughter. "Vo!" she'd shouted when she arrived earlier. "Daddy said you're famous." Marina had laughed. "No, meu amor. I'm just stubborn." Now, as she waited to speak, she felt a familiar flutter of nerves. But it wasn't fear of being judged anymore. It was the weight of what this day meant. "Ready?" Raphael asked, appearing beside her. She looked at him, smiled. I've been getting ready for this my whole life. He kissed her forehead. Then go show them who you are. When she stepped on stage, the applause was thunderous. Some people stood, others just watched with quiet awe because they knew her story, or parts of it. The girl who had been stripped of dignity and then built an empire of compassion from the rubble. She waited for the noise to fade. Then she spoke. 15 years ago, she began, I was dragged into a room not very far from here. I was accused, shouted at, humiliated in front of people who never even looked me in the eye before that night. The room went still. I remember the floor, she said softly. Marble, cold. I remember the taste of fear in my mouth. I remember thinking, this is it. My life is over. She glanced at the front row, where her granddaughter was watching with wide eyes. I was wrong, Marina continued. My life wasn't ending, it was just being broken open. Murmurs of emotion moved through the crowd. I thought revenge would fix me, she said. I thought exposing someone, destroying their name, would heal the wound. But here's what I learned. Revenge may bring justice, but only forgiveness brings peace. She paused, letting that sink in. There was a woman who hurt me, Marina said. She lied about me. She nearly cost me my freedom, my sanity, my future. I fought back, and the truth came out. She lost everything she had built. She took a breath. Years later, she came to me with nothing left, no money, no power, only regret. And I had a choice to make, punish her forever, or set both of us free. Miguel watched her, a lump in his throat. He had been a boy then. Now he understood what that choice had really cost her. I didn't forgive because she deserved it, Marina said. I forgave because I deserved peace. And because I wanted my son, she glanced at Miguel, and my granddaughter to grow up in a world where we don't answer cruelty with more cruelty, but with courage. A tear slipped down her cheek, but her voice stayed steady. This mansion used to be a cage, she said. Now it's a refuge, a place where women arrive with nothing but a broken heart and leave with hope in their hands. She smiled, looking around. You want to know what real revenge looks like? She asked, her voice warm, almost playful. It's this. It's being happy. It's building a life so full of love and dignity that the people who tried to destroy you don't recognize the person you became. The hall erupted in applause. Some people stood, some wept, some simply closed their eyes and breathed it in. When the noise quieted, Marina leaned into the microphone one last time. And if you're watching this, listening to this, thinking, that's beautiful, but my pain is too big, I want you to hear me. Your story isn't over. She looked straight into the nearest camera, as if speaking directly to one single person on the other side of the screen. You were not born to be someone's victim. You were born to be the main character of your own story. Don't let anyone hold the pen for you. She smiled softly. And if you believe that, mesmo com medo, even if you're scared, tell your story, share it. And if this one touched your heart, don't just scroll away. Leave your comment. Tell me, do you think forgiveness is strength or weakness? And if you were in my place, what would you have done? A soft ripple of reaction moved through the crowd. Some people nodded. Some lifted their phones. Somewhere, in millions of living rooms and tiny screens, hearts stirred. Thank you, she whispered, for listening, for believing, and for staying until the end. The lights brightened. The music rose. Later, after the speeches and photos, when the cameras were gone and only family remained, Marina sat on the steps of the mansion, watching the sky blush into evening. Her granddaughter climbed into her lap. "Vo, is it true? A rich lady was really mean to you here?" Marina chuckled softly. "Yes, a long time ago." "And you got revenge?" the girl asked, eyes shining with excitement. Marina thought about screaming, dresses, chandeliers, lawyers, about videos going viral, about Victoria alone in a small apartment, then later surrounded by children in a shelter. She shook her head. No, meu amor, I got something better. What? She kissed the top of the girl's head. I got my life back. The child thought about that for a while. And now this house is good? Marina smiled, looking at the lit windows, the silhouettes of women moving inside, the laughter floating out. Now this house is exactly what it always should have been, a place where no one is afraid. Raphael joined them on the steps, sitting beside her. Miguel came too, flopping down on the other side. The four of them watched as the first stars appeared. Hey, Miguel said suddenly, nudging Marina's shoulder, teasing. If someone had told you back then that one day you'd be on TV giving speeches with foundations in half the world, would you have believed them? She laughed. Back then, I just wanted to survive the next day. And now, Raphael asked softly. She looked at them, her family, her miracle, the man who had failed her once and then spent a lifetime making it right, the boy who had once screamed her name in the middle of a crisis and now carried light in his eyes, the child who would grow up never knowing what it meant to be humiliated the way her grandmother had been. Now, Marina said, I don't just survive, I choose. Choose what? Her granddaughter asked, sleepy now. Hope, Marina replied. Always hope. The little girl yawned and rested her head against her chest. The wind rose, carrying the sound of the ocean, the same ocean that had heard Marina's first broken prayers years ago. She tilted her face to the sky and whispered so softly only her heart and the night could hear, I was humiliated. I was broken, I was crushed, but I was never finished. Her fingers traced the small locket at her neck. Inside it, folded tight, was a single handwritten word. Light. She smiled. Because in the end, that was her greatest revenge. Not that the world knew what Vittoria had done, not that papers had paid her, or cameras had followed her, or people had applauded her. Her greatest revenge was simple. She refused to become what had tried to destroy her, and somehow, by choosing love where there had been cruelty and truth where there had been lies, she ended up with something no amount of money could ever buy, a life she was proud to live. So now it's your turn. Do you think Vittoria got what she deserved? Do you think Marina went too far or not far enough? And if you were the one dragged into that hall, called a thief in front of everyone you knew, what revenge would you choose? Tell me down below. I'm reading every single comment, and if this story touched you, don't forget to share it with someone who needs to hear that their worst day might just be the beginning of their best chapter.